The night the stars began to fall was the night Elian learned that love could write destiny. The sky had never behaved that way before, not in his lifetime or in any story passed down by the elders. Constellations shimmered as if breathing, light bending and folding in on itself, and a silver glow spilled across the earth like a promise too beautiful to understand. In that moment, standing alone on the cliff above the sleeping valley, Elian felt something awaken inside him, an ache, a hope, and a fear so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. He did not yet know that this was the beginning of a love written in starlight and magic, a love that would test everything he believed about fate, sacrifice, and the fragile courage it takes to choose kindness when the world demands survival. If you believe that kindness can change lives and that second chances can heal even the deepest wounds, take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still searching for light. Elian had grown up in the village of Lumerus, a place nestled between ancient forests and a river that glowed faintly at night, as if reflecting the heavens above. Life there was simple, almost painfully so. Days were measured by the rhythm of labor and rest, by planting and harvest, by births and funerals that blurred together over time. Elian had learned early how to work with his hands, how to endure loss without complaint, and how to keep his dreams small enough that they would not shatter him. His parents had died during the long winter plague, leaving him with nothing but their cottage, their kindness, and a quiet resolve to keep going. He carried that kindness like a hidden ember, shielding it from a world that often rewarded hardness over compassion. Yet Elian had always been drawn to the sky. As a child, he would lie in the grass for hours, tracing constellations with his finger, imagining stories where stars were not distant and cold but alive and watching. The elders dismissed such thoughts as foolishness, reminding him that magic had faded generations ago, leaving behind only myths and broken monuments. But Elian never fully believed that magic was gone. He felt it in the hush before dawn, in the way the river hummed at night, in the strange pull he felt whenever he looked up at the stars. That pull became unbearable on the night the sky changed. As the stars fell, not crashing but drifting like glowing petals, Elian noticed a single light descending faster than the rest. It struck the forest beyond the river, sending a ripple of silver through the trees. Without thinking, driven by instinct stronger than fear, Elian ran. He crossed the river, its waters cold and biting, and pushed into the forest where shadows twisted and whispered. The air grew thick with magic humming against his skin, until he reached a clearing bathed in starlight. There, at the center, lay a young woman unconscious among the scorched leaves, her dark hair fanned around her like ink spilled on moonlight. She was unlike anyone Elian had ever seen. Her presence felt unreal, as if the world had briefly forgotten its own rules. Light clung to her skin, faint but constant, and symbols he did not recognize shimmered along her wrists before fading. Panic and awe warred inside him. He knew the legends well enough to understand the danger. Starborn were said to be harbingers of change, beings tied to magic itself, and those who sheltered them often paid a terrible price. The sensible choice would have been to run, to tell the elders, to let someone else decide her fate. But Elian's kindness, that ember he had guarded all his life, flared into flame. He knelt beside her, lifted her carefully, and carried her back toward the village, unaware that his life had already diverged from the path it was meant to follow. He hid her in his cottage, tending to her wounds with shaking hands. When she finally woke, her eyes reflected the stars, not literally, but in a way that made Elian's breath catch. She was afraid, disoriented, and painfully aware that she did not belong. She told him her name was Lyra, that she came from a realm bound to the stars, and that her fall was no accident. The magic that sustained her world was unraveling, and she had been sent as a last hope to anchor it, to find a heart strong enough to bind magic back to life. Elian listened in stunned silence, the weight of her words settling slowly. He did not understand the full scope of her mission, but he understood her fear, her loneliness, and the way her voice trembled when she spoke of failure. Their days together unfolded quietly at first. Elian taught Lyra how to move through the village unnoticed, how to ground herself in a world without constant magic. Lyra, in turn, taught Elian how to listen to the pulse of the earth, to the subtle currents of starlight that still lingered beneath the surface. Their bond grew in spaces between words, in shared meals and silent walks beneath the night sky. Elian found himself laughing more than he had in years, feeling seen in a way he never had before. Lyra found something she had never known, a sense of belonging not defined by duty or prophecy, but by simple, imperfect humanity. But magic does not return without resistance. As Lyra's presence began to awaken dormant energies, the balance of Lumeris shifted. Crops grew faster, then withered overnight. Animals behaved strangely, and whispers of curses spread through the village. Fear took root, feeding on ignorance and old wounds. The elders sensed the change and began to search for its source. Elian felt the walls closing in, his love for Lyra colliding with the reality of what her discovery would mean. He struggled with guilt, wondering if his kindness had doomed them both. Lyra, burdened by the knowledge that her survival endangered him, pulled away, convinced that leaving would spare him the consequences of her existence. The night they nearly lost each other was heavy with rain and regret. Lyra prepared to return to the forest, to face whatever fate awaited her alone. Elian followed her, his heart pounding with words he did not know how to say. He spoke of fear, of loss, of how loving her had made him feel alive in a way he never thought possible. He did not ask her to stay for him, but he begged her not to disappear without understanding that her life had already changed his. In that moment, something ancient stirred. The stars above pulsed in response, and Lyra realized the truth she had been avoiding. The anchor her world needed was not a ritual or a chosen artifact. It was love freely given, resilient enough to exist without guarantees. Their connection deepened, but so did the danger. The elders confronted Elian, accusing him of harboring a force that threatened the village. Fear hardened into cruelty, and kindness was treated as betrayal. Elian was cast out, his home taken, his name spoken with contempt. Lyra watched from the shadows, her heart breaking at the cost he paid for her. She offered to leave, to end suffering, but Elian refused to let her bear that burden alone. Stripped of everything but each other, they fled into the forest, guided by starlight and uncertainty. The journey that followed tested them in ways neither had imagined. They faced creatures born of corrupted magic, illusions that preyed on their doubts, and moments where exhaustion nearly overcame hope. Elian grappled with his own inadequacy, convinced that his humanity made him unworthy of the cosmic forces at play. Lyra wrestled with guilt, fearing that loving him would weaken her resolve and doom her world. Yet with every challenge, their bond strengthened. Elian's kindness became a shield, his willingness to choose compassion even in despair anchoring Lyra when her magic faltered. Lyra's magic, in turn, began to respond not to duty but to emotion, glowing brighter when Elian's faith in her wavered least. At the heart of the forest, they reached an ancient observatory, a ruin from a time when magic and humanity had lived in harmony. There, Lyra learned the final truth of her mission. To restore the balance, she would have to return fully to the starlight, severing her physical form and leaving the mortal world behind. The magic required was vast, irreversible, and it would mean leaving Elian forever. The knowledge shattered them both. Elian felt the familiar weight of lost descent, heavier than any he had known. Lyra faced the ultimate choice between saving her world and honoring the love that had taught her what it meant to live. In the days that followed, they lingered in the ruins, suspended between hope and grief. Elian tried to be strong, to encourage Lyra to fulfill her destiny, but his heart rebelled against the inevitability of goodbye. Lyra, torn between duty and desire, searched the stars for an answer that would not cost them everything. It was Elian's quiet acceptance, his refusal to demand anything from her, that changed everything. In choosing her happiness over his own, he unknowingly completed the final requirement of the magic, love that does not cling, that does not possess, that allows freedom even at great cost. This was the anchor the stars had been waiting for. On the night of the ritual, the sky blazed brighter than ever before. Lyra stood at the center of the observatory, starlight swirling round her, her form beginning to dissolve into light. Elian watched, tears unashamed, his heart breaking and soaring all at once. As Lyra reached the point of no return, she felt something unexpected, a pull not away from the world, but toward it. The magic responded to the truth of their bond, writing the rules that had governed it for ages. Instead of consuming her entirely, the starlight wove itself into both of them, binding their lives together across realms. When the light faded, dawn broke over a changed world. The forest hummed with renewed life, the air warm and gentle. Elian awoke on the stone floor. Afraid to hope, Lyra lay beside him, solid and breathing, the glow within her softer but steadier than before. The magic had found a new balance, sustained not by sacrifice alone but by shared existence. Lyra no longer belonged solely to the stars, nor did Elian remain untouched by magic. Together, they became something new, a bridge between worlds, proof that love could be both grounding and transformative. Returning to Lumos was not easy. The village greeted them with suspicion, memories of fear still raw, but change had already begun. The land healed, the river shone brighter, and the people felt it even if they did not understand. Elian did not seek forgiveness or validation. He rebuilt his life slowly, helping where he could, offering kindness without expectation. Lyra, cautious but hopeful, shared her knowledge gently, never forcing belief. Over time, fear softened into curiosity, and curiosity into trust. The elders, humbled by what they had nearly destroyed, learned to listen. Years passed, marked not by tragedy but by quiet resilience. Elian and Lyra faced challenges, prejudice, lingering instability, moments where the magic threatened to overwhelm them, but they faced them together. Their love was not a fairy tale free of hardship. It was a daily choice to be patient, to be brave, to believe in each other even when the future felt uncertain. They taught the village children to look up at the stars not with fear, but with wonder. They reminded the world that magic did not have to be feared if it was guided by compassion. As Elian grew older, he often returned to the cliff where his journey had begun. Lyra would stand beside him, her hand in his, the stars reflecting softly in her eyes. He would think of the boy he once was, alone and afraid to dream too big, and marvel at how love had rewritten his story. He had learned that destiny was not something imposed from above, but something shaped by the choices made in moments of quiet courage. If this story has touched your heart, if it has reminded you that love and kindness still matter in a world that often feels cold, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and reaching those who need them most. Before the ending, I have one special request for you. Comment below with a single word that represents what love means to you after hearing this story. Your words may inspire someone who is still searching for hope. In the end, the stars no longer fell from the sky, but they shone brighter than ever, anchored by a love that had dared to exist without guarantees. Elian and Lyra lived not as legends, but as proof that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward, touching worlds beyond our own. Their love, written in starlight and magic, became a quiet promise whispered through generations that no matter how broken the world may seem, there is always a chance to choose compassion, to believe in second chances, and to let love guide us home.